Hello, my name is Soly Ortiz, and today I'm here with
Sasha Savostikova, but you guys can call me Sasha, and evidently by my name, you guys can tell that I am from Russia.
Yes, so Sasha's here today to tell us a little bit about her and her family's story, immigrating to the U.S., and how she's been affected by it, and how films showcasing these kind of topics are important. So, Sasha, tell me a brief history of your family's immigration story from Russia.
Of course, yeah. So I personally was born in Florida, but both my parents were born and raised in Russia, as well as my oldest sister. Born and raised there, and during Soviet Russia times in the USSR, and that's the beliefs and values they held at that time. When my mom conceived me and she was pregnant with me, she actually came to the U.S. and gave birth to me here, just to give me more opportunities and a more prosperous life. It was definitely not an easy transition. I mean, no immigration story is an easy story to talk about, but it definitely has made me who I am today, and I definitely carry that culture with me, and I still speak the language. It's my family's language. I speak Russian to my mom, to my sisters, so I hold that Russian value with me still.
That's so amazing how you were able to bring that culture and that side of you to the U.S. with you, even though you yourself weren't present for that. So that kind of leads me into my next thing I was curious about. Being, an immigrant child or a child of immigrant parents, how has that affected you growing up in the United States?
Of course, it's definitely strange because I think a lot of the values the two different cultures hold are very, very different. I mean, even just from the way you're educated, your education, or the way you carry conversations with your family, and where you value your family and your time with your family, it's all very different. And I think that's really evident every single day. I remember going to friends' houses when I was younger and just being astonished by how different the dynamic was, constantly actually. So I think I've managed to adjust well to it, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't very, very different.
Yeah, there's definitely that culture shock, and then of course people just not understanding, the way that your family may
You're all right.
just like the culture that you were
The
raised
dynamics,
in, and just
everything.
the difference between everything. I can imagine how there may have been some difficulties there. How was going to school and things like that?
Of course. So I mean, I think part of my childhood education, I don't remember too much of it because it was actually probably something I didn't want to cling on to. But I even remember back in pre-K, my mom, she never really wanted, she always spoke Russian to me, and I think that's really good because I got to keep that language. But it was also really, sometimes I feel ashamed, even though I shouldn't have, because I'm worried that people don't understand me, people don't understand what I'm saying, and I got concerned. But in elementary school, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the program, but there's ESOL. It's like a program where you speak a separate language, and it was your first language, and you have to test out of it in order to get put into classes with standard English speakers. So I remember that was so different, and just also all the events that the U.S. schools have. I mean, there's daddy-daughter dances, there's the Valentine's Day, carnation shops, all these things I was just so unfamiliar with. And because of my lack of understanding of American culture, I didn't always get to participate in it, which is okay. I mean, as I grew into the American culture, I got to do more, but as a younger child, I definitely noticed those differences.
Yeah, I can see how that could definitely shape how the person you are today. So how did you overcome those obstacles?
Of course, I think with time, I realized how beautiful my culture was. I realized that you don't have to leave one culture behind to learn others and to enjoy others. So I think if anything, I took the culture I had with my Russian family and I digested it, I understood it, and I allowed myself to add a little sprinkle of whatever else is happening around me into it. And I overcame it just because I learned to not care. I mean, I feel like everyone hears those stories about being bullied about the food you're bringing to lunches or about what you're wearing, because obviously I dress differently from some kids sometimes too. I mean, it was whatever to me. I never caught on to it, but it's just learning to understand that people are so much more than the way they look, what they eat. So it took time, but with age, with maturity, you get over it. You see how beautiful culture is.
I think that's such a beautiful, like, narrative right there, and I think it's something that definitely a lot of people can relate to, which is just like really important just to have those kind of stories being told, especially in film. You know, a lot of our films that we show deal with people's immigration stories and diversity. So how do you find the importance of these kind of topics being discussed in films?
I think it's so important because I think it portrays so many of us. I mean, America is a cultural pot. There's every single type of culture in it, and I think it's also important to share the stories and what people go through. I mean, in some senses, I feel like I'm lucky because you don't look at me and necessarily think I'm someone who immigrated, or I have a family from a different culture, and I guess sometimes I felt like that was a victory for me because I didn't have to. You can't even tell I have an accent. I don't have an accent, so I have victory. But I couldn't even imagine the people who come here and are making sacrifices to bring happiness to their family and success to their family. And I think this representation is so important to share people's stories and understand how difficult it is, to understand how valuable and beautiful all cultures and life are. And I think you guys will see that in the films as well. It's really important to give a voice to those people who are discriminated against or those who have not often had a voice. And film is a perfect way to do that.
That's totally true. So when people watch these films, what message do you really want them to take away?
I mean, not every person will get the same message when they watch the film, but I think it should, when you watch the films, you should just open up your eyes, open up your heart, and understand. Everyone has their battles, everyone has a hard time, but maybe think about how to be a little more caring. Think about how you don't really know what someone else is living until that's uncovered. And that goes to everything. That comes to immigration, that comes to family issues, love issues, relationship issues, literally anything you can imagine. Just walk around hoping and thinking of the best of everyone and assuming the best before you make a judgment or, do something that could possibly impact someone's life a little bit too much.
That's completely true. There definitely needs to be more compassion, and it's great that we're able to be showcasing these films that deal with these topics, especially to have education for a lot of people, not only who haven't been able to deal with this, but for people to relate to that have dealt with similar stories like this. So from this film festival, like you said, you hope that people can take away compassion. What steps do you think that UAB, for example, can implement into their programs that will allow them to be more have a more accessible and catering environment to people who are coming international or have an immigration story or just anybody who can fall into these categories that may need that kind of assistance?
Of course. So I think the first step I would like to share that I took as a UAB student to make sure I am doing my due diligence. I'm lucky in the sense of my mom went through the immigration and I came here and I started young with my education. But to those people who are just now getting that college education coming from foreign countries, it's not easy. You've already created these social groups and these friends and these what you're looking for in lasting friendships. You might already have those, but these people are coming from countries and they don't quite have that yet. So I think something extremely important is looking around and seeing what you can do just as one individual to help, because your one action makes a ripple effect of happiness and helpful nature. So I actually looked into it, and there's this program that UAB offers called Language Learner, something of that sort. I'm not sure if that's the right name, but it's a program that is offered in the Stern Library where you can help tutor people and help them practice their English and conversations and social environments, and just really help them adjust to, the social world of the US. It's very evident that we have different dynamics from other countries, and some people just are coming into this big pressure of the world and they're not, maybe not ready for it. So it's really good to have that program of language learners to help adapt, and I think that UAB could maybe advertise that more, maybe make more partnerships between students, maybe one of those from the foreign country and then one from the US, and make like buddies, something of that sort. But just really go out there, look into it, and see if you can help. You don't need to know a different language. You don't need to know a second language in order to help someone learn English. It's just putting that effort in to be their friend is so valuable. And I think I can remember just having the need for friends like that when I was younger. And I feel like that's what we can do now, is be that friend for them.
Yes, that's so true. Thank you so much for being an advocate, not only just for people who have similar stories to yours, but just for the betterment of UAB as a community. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and your family's journey. I really appreciate your participation, and we're so glad that we got to hear from you. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you in the next interview, and watch. Sorry, what am I trying to say? And tune into the next films. Yeah, thank you.
Bye, thank you.